Da auf so ein Video habe ich eigentlich gewartet. So, ich gucke sowas voll gerne. Okay, dann gucken wir das an.
After spending many hours with Silent Hill 2 Remake, dissecting every nook and cranny of each location in the town of Silent Hill, there were bound to be hidden details
Oh,
waiting to be
Angela.
discovered. Today, I want to present all the secrets and Easter eggs that have been discovered so far. This will contain spoilers for
Wer das
Silent
bis
Hill
jetzt
2
nicht gespielt
Remake.
hat, ist selber schuld. Ja, genau. Nein, der soll gehen.
After the opening intro cinematic with James Sunderland in the restroom, where he looks at himself in the mirror, becoming out of touch with reality, he finds himself reflecting on the letter he received from Mary after she passed away due to mysterious disease, yet committed to knowing how or where she is alive in the town of Silent Hill, where she is waiting for him in their special place. After the monologue, the player gets full control over James while in the parking lot of the observation deck overseeing Toluca Lake. When approaching James's car to retrieve the map, the player can get a slight glimpse at the interior of James's car. If the player were to manipulate the camera, they could look into the passenger seat to see a blanket that takes up the entire back passenger seat and outlines the body. This may seem a bit odd at first glance, but this is actually part of a previous and ongoing fan theory where players speculated that Mary's corpse was actually in the backseat all along. This is further evident when answered by Masahiro Ito, series monster designer, regarding the legitimacy of this theory. According to him, Mary's body was always meant to be in the back passenger seat. This claim is further cemented with a slight hint in the in-water ending, where we get to see James in the driver's seat of his car, then looking slowly behind him at the back passenger seat, presumably at Mary's
Hat
corpse.
Bär am Anfang nicht verstanden. Wie wir denn das Spiel nochmal gestartet haben, habe ich ihm auch gesagt, lauf mal um das Auto rum und guck mal bitte rein. Holy hell. Wusstest du das nicht, Arctic? Das war sogar im Original schon. Ich wusste das. Ich habe darauf gewartet, ob er das sieht beim Spielen, aber er hat nicht reagiert. Und wie wir dann durch waren und er halt das Ende auch gar nicht so richtig verstanden hat und ich ihm das erklärt habe, habe ich gesagt, komm, mach mal Game nochmal an. Guck dir mal das Auto an. Und dann hat er auch so, liegt da was drin? Ich so, eventuell ist der Tod unserer Frau noch gar nicht so lange her.
Before leaving the observatory deck, you can return and enter the restroom James was previously in. If you leave the door open and look to the right of the wall, you'll find posters advertising Heaven's Night with Maria being featured. Going down the road, you'll find a large and wide metallic fence and Easter eggs that have been discovered. Series monster, then looking slowly behind the restroom James was previously in.
Da. Deswegen, wir hatten ein gutes Ende. Wir hatten ein gutes Ende gehabt. Aber wie gesagt, Bär hat das nicht so ganz verstanden, weil ich fand halt auch beim Remake wurden einige Sachen nicht so gut gezeigt, erklärt, wie es halt im Original war. Siehe Pyramid Head. Aber ich muss dir zustimmen, er ist ein mieser, kleiner, dreckiger Penner, der die schlechten Enden eigentlich alle verdient hat. Sag ich auch. Also, das erste Mal, dass ein Protagonist und immer wenn Marco dann so, nein, James und so, und dachte ich so, hab doch kein Mitleid mit dem Arsch, wenn du wüsstest so. Aber ich wollte ihm halt immer nicht spoilern. Ich hab's ihm dann halt zum Ende hin erklärt. Aber was ist so ein Protagonist, wo jeder Tod eigentlich verdient ist?
If you leave the door open and look to the right of the wall, you'll find posters advertising Heaven's Night with Maria being featured. Going down the road, you'll find a large and wide metallic fence blocking off the road from being entered. If you look up at the signs, you'll find Old Silent Hill and Brahms. Old Silent Hill is a previously seen location that was in Silent Hill 1. Brahms is a city. Sybil Bennett, a major character from Silent Hill 1, is originally from. When walking on the forest trail to the town of South Vale, James will encounter a well with a red square lying at the bottom. They are used as save points throughout the game. While this is a fact, what's interesting is that James comments on the feeling of, quote, someone going inside his skull to grope him. This is literally and figuratively meta-commentary, as we the player are going inside James's mind to save his progress, that is, in this context, his memories throughout the game. A detail that is crucial in James's journey of remembering his time in Silent Hill, along with his wife Mary before her death. When reaching the graveyard where we meet Angela Orozco, we get to interact with her for the first time, questioning where to follow a path that leads to the town of South Vale. Following the interaction, we can have the option to talk to her once again. If we take a moment to manipulate the camera once again, we can see a bit more detail behind Angela's character model, where we get to see her nails, torn and wear, it looks as if she was...
Das ist mir gar nicht aufgefallen. Das ist ja so krass. Das ist ja richtig krass. Ach, Angela. Angela war so eine traurige Geschichte. Die hat mir so, so leid getan. Und da finde ich es irgendwie schade, dass du nicht Einfluss drauf nehmen kannst, um das besser zu machen. Also, ja, da waren die sehr genau, habe ich gesehen. Mir sind halt so Sachen aufgefallen wie die Haare zwischen den Augenbrauen und sowas bei James halt. Oder die schiefen Zähne oder sowas. Aber die Nägel habe ich nicht gesehen. Das ist ja richtig krass.
Was biting on them previously. This is a small, subtle detail to her character development of the trauma she received during her long years of abuse from her father, Thomas Orozco, manifested as the abstract daddy from her subconscious that is realized in the town itself. In mental health, nail biting can be a sign of anxiety or stress, as well as depression. While not confirmed, Angela presumably used this as a coping mechanism. While walking on the path to the town of Southville, James will encounter on the path a farm called Silent Hill Ranch. Silent Hill Ranch is also a location previously seen in the original Silent Hill 2 briefly, such as here. While this may seem insignificant at the moment, there is actually a well-known meme of the sign of Silent Hill Ranch that was heavily mocked by the community in its portrayal in the Silent Hill HD collection. In the HD collection, the sign switched its previous font to a Comic Sans font that looked out of place. The sign would hilariously make a return in the remake, albeit well hidden inside the barn on the ranch. If we manipulate the camera, we can find this exact same Comic Sans font once more. One of the unlockable achievements in Silent Hill 2 Remake is called Echoes. To unlock this, the player must witness all glimpses of the past in a single playthrough. These glimpses of the past are homages to the original Silent Hill 2 that serve as references to events that played out in the story. Such callbacks and references make a notable return throughout the remake, such as seen here in the underpass before entering the town of Southville. This was originally where James encountered the lying figure and received the wooden plank. Another glimpse of the past references the corpse you'd originally find at the end of Martin Street to retrieve the Woodside Apartments key. Others include the original coin puzzle found littered in debris in Blue Creek Apartments, and the original Pyramid Head boss fight in the stairwell of Blue Creek Apartments. There are approximately 26 glimpses of the past that would spark nostalgia and memories that remind us of the original, but I'll leave those for you to discover and find yourself. Continuing onwards into the town of Southville, we can find memos of references to Silent Hill locations, lore, and history in the Silent Hill timeline. When walking up north of Neely Street, James can stumble upon a memo that details popular landmark destinations in Silent Hill. These locations are Toluca Lake, Lakeside Amusement Park, the Lighthouse, and Old Silent Hill. Lakeside Amusement Park made previous appearances in Silent Hill 1 and Silent Hill 3 during the Otherworld sequences. The Lighthouse appeared in Silent Hill 1 during the Nightmare Resort area sequence, and finally, Old Silent Hill is one of the main locations you explore in Silent Hill 1 as the playable protagonist Harry Mason. When inside Woodside Apartments, on the first floor in room 112, James could find a newspaper article that goes into heavy detail about a murder case about two unfortunate victims named Billy and Miriam Locane, murdered by the serial killer Walter Sullivan, the main antagonist of Silent Hill 4. The importance of this murder case is that it is loosely tied to Silent Hill 4, which sets up Walter Sullivan as his role in conducting the 21 Sacraments ritual, as well as the appearance of the twin victims, a monster manifested by the psyche of Walter Sullivan's memories. Further references to Silent Hill 4 could also be found in Woodside Apartments Room 102, with a very similar replication of Room 302.
Oh mein Gott!
Apartment room in which Henry Townsend, the protagonist of Silent Hill 4, resided. It may just be a coincidence, however, but the similarities are too noticeable to dismiss. When accessing the public pool in the apartment complex, James can find a map that not only is the town of Southville, but actually the original map itself. When exploring Nightmare Blue Creek Apartments, James will eventually come to stumble upon room 209. When entering, if you turn your volume up and listen very carefully, you can hear a whisper of words being spoken. These words at first glance are very haunting and creepy, as it's unexpected. However, this is a reference to room 209 in the original Silent Hill 2, where the same events happens when entering the room itself.
Oh, das ist eklig.
What's interesting about this whisper, however, is more so the origin of the whisper itself, as it was initially speculated by the community to have some bearing of importance. In an interview with an English translator and localizer, Jeremy Blostein, reveals that the whisper that players hear in Room 209 is nothing more than one of the voice actors rehearsing lines with gibberish during recording sessions. During the boss fight with Pyramid Head, you may have the impression of dealing damage to him to defeat him to continue with progression throughout the story. And while this is true, you technically don't have to deal any damage at all to Pyramid Head, and instead, wait out the boss fight itself as there is a time limit before the duration of the fight ends. It's about approximately 6 to 7 minutes of waiting out Pyramid Head's attacks. However, after meeting Maria at the pier in Rosewater Park, James and Maria will find Jack's Inn to retrieve a key to continue their journey through West Southvale to find Mary. During this stop, however, there are quite a few huge Easter eggs that you can find in the motel rooms.
Ja.
On the second floor of Jack's Inn, James can find a memo that hints at the access code for the locker safe.
Also jeder,
When
wer
returning
das
to
nicht
Maria,
mitgekriegt
Maria
hat.
holds out to James her classic outfit from the original
Ja.
Silent Hill 2. A nice little reference and joke at the expense of her
Fand ich
fashion
mega.
design, in which
Das
she asks
Easter Egg fand
James
ich
if she would
mega.
look good in it or not.
Da habe ich mich voll drüber gefreut.
Sure.
Der hat geschlafen. Ja, also
Hey, we'll take it.
ich habe schon losgeschrien, bevor sie was
If we were to
gesagt hat.
continue to
Marco, so
room
was jetzt
106,
los?
we can find a fedora that lies on
Fand
the
ich
edge of a
süß.
chair. This fedora is a reference to Douglas Cartland, a major character from Silent Hill 3, who is a private investigator tasked by
Oh,
the
na
religious
toll,
cult,
Max,
the
na
Order,
toll.
to go and find Heather
Eigentlich
Mason,
nicht so, das
the main
Flüstern kam aus
protagonist
einem
from
Album
Silent Hill
von Stock
3.
Sounds.
Further cementing this reference to
Echt?
Silent Hill 3 is James's comment about feeling uncomfortable and
Keine
not safe
Ahnung.
in this room.
I think we should leave.
Oh, loosen up, James. It sure beats running around with those monsters out there.
I'm not so sure.
James confirms his suspicions when revisiting Room 106 during the Night West Southvale sequence to find the Halo of the Sun, hidden behind torn wallpaper. The Halo of the Sun is the signature symbol that affiliates with the Order, reflecting the ideas of the rebirth of a god,
Das ist mir
cleansing
gar
the
nicht
world of
aufgefallen.
hate and in turn, giving birth to a paradise.
Das habe
A
ich,
heavy
glaub ich, nicht
motivation from
gesehen.
both antagonists Dahlia Gillespie
Und
and Claudia Wolf,
Skibo, das musst
respectively
du
from Silent Hill 1 and
Spooky
Silent Hill
Magnus
3,
oder Spooky Phoenix
cultists who
schicken.
resided in the town of Old Silent Hill, the base of their operations.
Das Sieger habe ich gesehen.
Before
ich
using the key
kann
to
mich
leave
nicht dran
Jack's
erinnern.
Inn, you can visit Pete's Bolorama beforehand alongside with Maria. While here, James discovers a box of open pizza that isn't finished. If you were to interact with the pizza, James makes a familiar comment.
Ugh. This town's full of monsters. Who could just sit here and eat pizza?
This comment he makes is a reference to a funny interaction between James and Eddie from the original Silent Hill 2,
Ja.
in which James implores Eddie to join him in finding Laura.
What
Eddie
night can hear
refuses
voice
and
box
instead
sound
decides to eat his
effect.
pizza. James
Aha.
responds in frustration and confusion by Eddie being so calm eating pizza,
Okay.
while there's a town full of monsters.
Eddie, let's go after her.
Eddie,
Huh?
muss ich sagen,
Laura? Why?
hat mir im Original
Laura. Is that her
besser
name?
gefallen.
That's what she said.
Also nicht von der Grafik her, seine
This
Geschichte.
town is full of monsters.
War-
How can you sit there and eat pizza?
While not
Naja,
the
du
same
hattest nicht
delivery
unbedingt
featured in the
wirklich Mitleid
remake,
mit
this
ihm,
similar interaction is seen in
aber du
Revere
hast ein
Theater,
bisschen besser
where instead of
verstanden.
pizza, Eddie is eating a tub of ice cream. Upon leaving Pete's Bolorama and heading west past Silent Hill Historical Society, James can stumble upon a corpse with a memo by it. After reading the memo, you can finally hear two sounds of bodies hitting the pavement behind you. Backtracking a little, you will find two mannequins lying deceased on the road. This may seem very random and odd, but it's a reference to the mannequins found in the same road in the original Silent Hill 2, where they randomly get launched from the bushes onto the road to attack James. After leaving Jack's Inn, James finds a mansion in front of him with the entrance open, only to find a white liquid that is broken. Upon returning to Maria, James asks Maria if she is feeling okay, to which she responds not feeling safe and has a bad memory of this mansion.
Yeah, it's just... This place just gives me the creeps. I'm not sure why.
You ever been inside?
I'm not sure. It does feel familiar somehow. Like a bad memory. It's nothing, really.
This is a reference to her sub-scenario, Born from a Wish, a playable side story that is unlocked after beating the main story, Letter from Silent Heaven. In this sub-scenario, in which you play as Maria, before the events of the main story of Silent Hill 2, she finds herself contemplating life and death when pondering about her purpose when it comes to her existence. She eventually finds herself in Baldwin Mansion, where she meets a spirit that is the apparition of James Baldwin, where she learns from James Baldwin of James Sunderland, the protagonist who she eventually meets in the main story. making that her purpose in finding him. It's also speculated that at some point in the future, Blooper Team, developers behind Silent Hill 2 Remake, will eventually implement her sub-scenario Born from a Wish as post-launch DLC, as it was never unlockable after completing the main story, unlike the original. When James and Maria find themselves in Heaven's Night talking to each other and relaxing before going back to exploring West Southvale to find Mary, Maria offers James a drink to celebrate finding what they both like to call hope. James, however, respectively declines Maria's offer of drinking alcohol. What's interesting about this scene is the subtle hand movement James makes when contemplating drinking alcohol or not. It's a nice attention to detail that touches upon James's previous alcoholism after the passing of Mary, and while Mary was in the hospital for her unknown terminal illness. What's really cool about this detail though, is that it actually is seen in the original Silent Hill 2, when James and Maria enter the back entrance leading into Heaven's Night. James can find bottles of alcohol to interact with and make a comment on it, stating how he used to be a heavy drinker to drink away from the pain he felt. While exploring Revere Theater to find Laura, James stumbles upon a theater room where the picture starts to suddenly play on a blank white screen. If you were to wait long enough, you can get a quick glimpse of a frame that is in black and white. If paused at the appropriate frame and zoomed into focus, the player can see a frame of the videotape in which James filmed where he and Mary stayed in room 302 of Lakeview Hotel during a vacation trip to Silent Hill. These foreshadow the events that are yet to come, where James eventually remembers he killed Mary. After defeating the Fleshlips in Brookhaven Hospital, James is then transported to Nightmare Brookhaven Hospital. While here, after exiting the first room and turning to your left, you'll find a red square to save your progress. You'll find imagery of a rusted metallic fence along with a fan spinning slowly. This looks similar to the same presentation of Silent Hill 1, when in Nightmare Midwich Elementary School as Harry Mason, and Silent Hill 3 in the cathedral before the final boss. However, this could just be mere coincidence. When first entering the labyrinth, James can find an abstract and disturbing hallway that is filled with limbs of mannequins that block James's path in progressing. Upon closer inspection, this could be a reference to the opening intro cinematic of the original Silent Hill 2, which also features similar imagery of the mannequins. Continuing in the labyrinth, James will find himself exploring the rotted area, where he finds a room that is filled with only a office space. It's quite the odd inclusion and questionable, to say the least, as to why such a random space is seen here in all of places. However, if we take a look at James's character profile, it reveals that James's occupation is a clerk. This is revealed in the Book of Lost Memories Silent Hill Chronicle, an official 136-page documentation of the earlier Silent Hill games before Silent Hill 4. In this documentation, we can find a page specifically about the character profiles from Silent Hill 2. At some point during the story, James eventually develops a lot of wear and tear over time when it comes to his appearance. One notable detail is his thumbs when inspecting the map of a location he is in. For example, when first arriving in Silent Hill, his thumbs will be noticeably clean. Eventually, when in the labyrinth, James's thumbs will look dirty. More of this tired appearance is also seen when James is talking to Laura after it's revealed that he killed Mary, with notable eye bags around his eyes. Before the boss fight with Eddie, you'll stumble upon a cemetery that features various gravestones. On one of these gravestones, we once again get a reference to Walter Sullivan. When exploring the basement of Lakeview Hotel to find a way to escape, James can find a kitchen that will have an assortment of food. If James chooses to interact with the bread, you'll get an achievement called It's Bread. A reference to a meme from Silent Hill 3, where Heather Mason can also interact with bread in the bakery store of Central Square Shopping Center. If she chooses to interact with the bread, she comments, "It's bread." Before the Pyramid Head duo boss fight, if you choose to save at the 9 red squares, you can see a subtle difference in James's facial expression when looking at the red square. Initially, James would stare blankly. However, he instead looks away from the screen and avoids making contact this time. While mysterious and not exactly explained, it can be theorized that this is a nod to James's uncertainty about accepting the truth as he recently learned that he killed Mary. The red squares are theorized to be a reflection of one's inner feelings and thoughts, an insight into James's psyche, if you will. At the beginning of the game, before leaving the observation deck, you can inspect Mary's letter to see the handwriting on the paper. At the end of the game, before fighting the Pyramid Head duo and Mary, the letter is not to be found, never existing and merely just one of James's delusions of Mary being alive, manifested by the town itself. Upon finishing the game, you have the option of selecting New Game Plus. When playing in New Game Plus, you can find a now unlockable weapon called the Chainsaw near Silent Hill Ranch. When used on an enemy, if you were to wait for a certain amount of time, you can see James do an idle animation.
Okay, so lange habe ich ihn
This
nie
is also
stehen
a
lassen.
feature that is seen in the original Silent Hill 2. These are all the secrets and Easter eggs I can find so far in Silent Hill 2 Remake. I'm pretty sure I only scratched the surface, and there's far more secrets and Easter eggs that have yet to be discovered out there, but only time will tell. Anyways, that's me. Thank you for watching, please have a great day,
Ja,
stay
danke.
safe, and goodbye.
Goodbye. Da gab es nicht mehr Secret Weapons. Was hättest du denn noch gewollt? Maschinenpistole? Also welche Waffe? Gab ja noch das Schwert vom Pyramid Head. Aber James ist ja eigentlich eine Lusche. Meinst du, der hätte das tragen können? Ein Lichtschwert. Naja, wenn du dir anguckst, was es für Ending gibt, dann hättest du auch ein Lichtschwert machen können. Ja, da hast du recht. Das, ja.